It's going to say a doctor administers a drug of for a 40 kilogram patient. Dosage is, and where this one looks weird too is that dosage, because it's milligrams per kilograms per day. I think that kind of confuses students because it's like milligram per kilogram per day, and having that as a fraction of a fraction of a fraction looks odd, but I'll show how it treat that bottom one, that kilograms per day, as just one of your units, because that's what we actually want at the end, is where it's going to be asking us how many pills per hour. That means that how many pills per hour is what our final answer is going to be. It says, and some of this information is going to be useful to us now. Some of the information is what you end up using for part B next. But all of these, I'm going to write these as an equality statement. And then what I'm going to do is write that as a ratio that, remember, we can flip upside down, whatever we need to do it as to get it to cancel. So it says, how many pills should a patient take if they every 4 hours? Pills per 4 hours. Keep that in the back of your mind. My final answer is going to be pills per 4 hours. Okay. So I'm going to start with, thank you, 40 kilogram patient. When I write that, I'm not even sharing right now. Why didn't you guys tell me I'm not sharing? Oh, I won't be able to share at the same time. Here's what I'm going to need to do. I need to stop sharing. I'm going to need to flip to this camera. Now, do you guys see the scratch paper that I'm writing on? That's the camera you guys are seeing, right? Thank you. Okay, so I start with a 40 kilogram person, and you guys will just have to memorize. Remember that when you get this, you won't have a 40 kilogram. You're going to have like a 42 kilogram. You're going to have a 38 kilogram patient, right? So whatever those are, Cam, this question will be the one that's on your final exam. It's just going to change up all those numbers inside. And instead of being, what number is this on this one? This is question 10 right now. It might be question 1. It might be the last question. It's going to be somewhere in there, shuffled around, different numbers inside. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and write now all of these. I have 55 milligrams per, and I'm going to put kilograms per day. Another one of mine. Now, remember when, and this is all from the problem, where it says 300 milligrams is how much we use for 5 milliliters. This was exactly what we were talking about in the train tracks. I would write that as a ratio of 300 milligrams per 5 milliliters, or 5 milliliters is 300 milligrams. My whole goal is to set up to where I'm getting these to cancel. The last one is, I have a 4 milligram tablet. I'm going to give myself a little bit of room here. 400 milligrams equals 1 pill. And again, they put tablet, right? A tablet is a pill, right? So again, I write that ratio. If 1 pill is 400 milligrams, then I could write that as a ratio of 400 milligrams is 1 pill, or 1 pill is 400 milligrams. Now, write these all out before we start the problem. You're just going to be picking and mixing and matching to get those to cancel, to get pills per 4 hours at the end. So what I would do is, where I start with kilograms, I'm going to look for where am I going to have kilograms that I can count. Oh, up this. Now, remember, I could have written this as kilogram per day is 55 milligrams. This says the same thing, right? I could have written that the same way, just as that's the same, right? I can write that however I want, but my objective is to get that kilogram to cancel. So that's why this one isn't wrong. It's just not useful for me. So I'm going to use this one that has my kilograms. To cancel. So then what I've set up is my kilograms cancel. The next one, and this is where you're going to have to use some intuition. This is where it might be a bit of guess and check. You might be able to see it right off the bat, but where I see that I have milligrams, that obviously I don't have milligrams over here, I'm going to ask myself, do I want this milligrams or do I want this milligrams? And when I ask myself that, the next thing that I should be asking is, well, if I get this milligram, and notice since milligram is in the top, I would need the one with milligram in the bottom, the one with milligram in the bottom. So it would be, I'm using one of those two. I would ask myself, well, am I talking about number of pills? Is that what I want for my final answer? Or do I want milliliters in my final answer? Well, in the problem, it's asking me how many pills per 4 hour. I'm not going to use this right now. Again, this isn't wrong. Right now, just this whole thing is not useful for me in part A. That's okay. I'm going to use it in part B. This one right here, and now again, where I said 400 milligrams is one pill or one pill is 400 milligrams, both of those say the same thing. Both of those are correct, but one of them is just not useful. The one that I want to use is, I got milligrams in the top. I'm going to pick that one that has milligram in the bottom. Because I want that milligram to cancel. Now, what this is right now I'm left with pill per day. I'm going to go ahead and multiply this out right now, and then I'm going to show us that, because the last step is kind of weird, the way they worded the problem and the intuition that we need to use for it. I multiply this like a fraction. I've got my units. I used my units to get all of this to cancel except my pill per day. I know that it's pill per day versus pill per 4 hours. I'm going to come back to this here in just a second, the correction we need. But what I have is, fraction. Well, I put that over 1, right? Any fraction, any number you can put over 1. And now I have fraction, fraction, fraction. Multiply straight across. Multiply straight. Multiply is your easy one, right? Top times top times top. Bottom times bottom times bottom. I need somebody with a calculator here because I don't know exactly what I'm going to get for this. So somebody, as I'm writing this, pull out your calculator. Even a scientific calculator is totally fine right now. And I'm going to put times 1 because it is there, okay? All over, I'm going to leave that 1 because it is there, right? Anything times 1 is not going to matter, but I'm going to put times 400. So in my calculator, somebody tell me what is 40 times 55. You guys can tap it, write it in the chat, or just tell me right now. So
2200.
2200 sounds good to me. All divided by, anyone, what's 1 times 1 times 400? 400, right? Okay. Somebody divide for me. What's 2200 divided by 400?
5.5.
Is that exact or was that rounded?
That's exact.
Okay, cool. Because this one actually worked out really good. The one that I did with a student the other day, it ended up being a whole decimal. We had to round and everything, but this is good. What is that 5.5 in terms of this problem? I did all this multiplication. I did all that simplification. I punched into a calculator. Does anyone remember what that 5.5 is? It's written there on the piece of paper.
5.5 pills per day.
Perfect. That's exactly right. What that means is for whatever this drug administered, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff that it's asking for per dosage, per patient, somebody weighing 40 kilograms is going to want to take 5.5 pills in a day. The question is, how many pills in 4 hours am I going to want? So intuition, if I talk about 4 hours, how many 4-hour periods are there in a day? How many hours are in a day?
6.
There are 24 hours in a day, right? So what that means is 6 of those 4 hours, right? Every 6 hours is when I'm going to be taking one. So what I'm going to do is 5.5 divided by 6. Somebody punch it in on a calculator for me.
.916 continued.
All righty. That was my pills per 4 hours. I'm going to flip back here to share the screen. Look back at what we had here. A patient who's 40 kilograms should be taking 0.92 pills per 4 hours. Questions?